The Gospel of Mary Magdalene is one of the texts discovered at Nag Hammadi that the Church attempted to destroy. There's a moment that shows why the Archons worked so hard to stay hidden. Mary has a vision in which she ascends through the 7 kingdoms, and at each gate, an Archon attempts to stop her, prompting one of the disciples to ask her how she saw them. "How did you know they were present?" And Mary responds with something the Church could not include in the canon of Scripture. Jesus instructed us to open our eyes to see beyond what is seen, not just spiritual vision. Actual seeing with actual eyes, because seeing them in material form eliminates their principal weapon. The Archons' greatest advantage is not their power, but their concealment. They work at frequencies that most humans cannot perceive, allowing them to attach to your field, influence your thoughts, and alter your emotions. At the same time, you are unaware of their presence. You'll believe you have complete control over your impulses. Every fear is yours. Every self-sabotaging notion is your own. However, once you can see them, when your physical eyes can detect entities operating just outside normal visual range, everything changes because you can no longer be manipulated by what you're watching. You cannot be dominated by what you acknowledge as separate from yourself. Jesus did not educate the chosen ones to sense Archons. He taught them to perceive Archons with wide eyes in waking consciousness, not in meditation, altered states, or everyday reality. Because that's where the Archons are, just outside the frequency range that your eyes are programmed to perceive. And as soon as you learn to change your visual perception even a little, they become visible. And they fear visibility more than any prayer, ritual, or spiritual activity you could perform. Tonight, you'll learn the technique Jesus taught, which the Church erased from every recognized source because they couldn't let Christians know that the entities they're praying for protection against can be seen. And once you see them, after you've looked straight at an Archon with your actual eyes and seen it recoil in response to being perceived, you'll never doubt that this is real again. If you're learning to see the Archons tonight, please leave a remark. I see them now. Before I explain the strategy, you need to understand why the Archons have spent so much effort to remain unseen to human perception. It's not because they are inherently invisible. They are not ghosts. They are not incorporeal souls. They have form. They exist in dimensions that overlap with material reality, although their frequency falls outside the range of material fact. Human eyes are designed to detect, and the offset is purposeful. It is part of the prison's design. When the demiurge formed the human body, he created the eyes to view only a little portion of what is actually present. Visible light is the part of the electromagnetic spectrum that ranges from 380 to 700 nanometers. That is it. However, reality continues to exist outside of that range. Infrared is here. The ultraviolet has arrived, and the Archons reside in frequencies just next to what your eyes can normally detect, close enough to engage with you but far enough away that you cannot see them. Consider how much easier it is to dominate someone who cannot see you. You can stand behind them and speak words into their minds, and they will believe they originated with them. You can elicit emotions in their field, and they will assume these are their normal reaction to stimuli. You can link cords to their energy body and drain them, and they will feel exhausted without knowing why. Invisibility is more than simply a benefit for the Archons. It is the foundation of the entire control system. But here's what the Gnostics discovered as the Church attempted to bury the human eye. It is more versatile than the demiurge planned. Yes, it was built to see a limited range of frequencies, but it can be educated. The mechanism is already present. You do not need new eyes. You must activate the capacity of your current eyes. But that has been suppressed since birth. Because if every human could kraken, the harvest system would fail instantly. You cannot feed on someone who is watching you feed. You cannot manipulate someone who notices your hand on the controls. Chosen individuals who learn to perceive Archons report the same thing. When visibility occurs, the power dynamic inverts. Previously, you felt as if you were being attacked by invisible forces from unknown origins. After you understand what is going on, you can see the entity, the attachment point, and the cord. And the instant you notice it, the AKA knows you see it, and it panics because its cover has been revealed, and Archons acting without cover are vulnerable, desperate, and readily discarded. The technique Jesus taught isn't about attaining clairvoyance. It's about broadening the scope of what your physical eyes can see. And the method is simpler than most people realize, which is why the church had to repress it so harshly. If this had been a complex discipline that required years of study, they could have left it as an esoteric activity for mystics. But it's not complicated. Most chosen ones activate this ability within the first 7 days of proper practice, and once activated, it remains active. You cannot unsee what you have trained to see. Your eyes do more than receive light. They also interpret frequency, which happens in the brain rather than the eye itself. The eye collects info. The brain decides what is genuine and what is blocked out. And, since birth, your brain has been filtering out frequencies where our cousins exist. Not because those frequencies aren't reaching your retina, but because your brain has been programmed to recognize them as visual noise and remove them before they reach consciousness. But that filter is not permanent. It is malleable. You may reset it by teaching your visual attention to recognize what is ordinarily overlooked. You've probably already experienced this without realizing what you were seeing. You are alone in a room. The lights are dim, and in your peripheral vision, you notice movement, a shifting shadow, and an odd-looking figure. You turn to gaze squarely at it, and it has vanished. Most people reject this as imagination, weariness, or eyes playing tricks, but those who have trained to perceive know it for what it is. You have peripheral vision. Detecting an Archon briefly before your central vision filter kicked in and obliterated it. Peripheral vision works differently from central vision. Central vision is sharp and detailed. Peripheral vision is designed to detect movement and tiny changes in the surroundings, and it has access to a somewhat larger frequency range than central vision. That is why you see things in the corner of your eye, yet they vanish when you look squarely. Your peripheral vision detected something. Your central vision filter will not enable this. The technique. Jesus' teaching takes advantage of this gap. You are not seeking to view Archons with direct focus. You're teaching your peripheral awareness to hold on to what it detects long enough for your conscious mind to register it. And when your brain realizes that what it has been filtering out is consistently present, not random, not imagination, but actual presence, the filter relaxes, and you begin to see them, not just in peripheral flashes, but in sustained perception, with your eyes fully open in normal waking consciousness. Here's the technique. It's termed a gentle stare. Every mystery culture that trains students to see non-physical things employed some variation of it. You'll do this tonight, and after 3 to 7 days, your first Archon will not only not sense it, but also not feel it. See it with your own eyes. Find a place where you can sit comfortably with dim lighting, not complete darkness. The lighting is dim enough to cast shadows with depth, but bright enough to see real objects clearly. The reason is that Archons are more visible when there is contrast. Pure darkness provides far too much cover. Bright light drives them away, and low light casts shadows. That's where people act the most daringly, because they believe you can't see them sitting facing a wall or an open space. Not a screen, nothing with detail that will draw your attention. You want a neutral visual field, so you soften your sight. This is critical. When most people strive to see something, they become more focused. They restrict their focus. They aim to focus precisely on what they're looking for. That is completely incorrect. You're doing the reverse. You're extending your gaze, relaxing your eye muscles, and allowing your vision to drift slightly out of focus so you don't look at anything in particular. You're simply seeing the entire field all at once. This will be uncomfortable at first since you are not used to seeing things in this way. Your eyes desire to focus. Your brain seeks a goal, but you keep your gaze soft, loose, and receptive rather than searching. And while you maintain that gentle look, you're paying attention to your peripheral awareness, not moving your eyes toward it, but simply noting what's around the margins of your vision. While your core vision remains soft and unfocused, you will notice things within the first few minutes. Normally, you filter out microscopic air movements, shadows that shift while nothing physical moves, and shapes that do not correspond to any item in the room. Most people's first instinct is to stare directly at the shapes, and when they do, they vanish. That is the filter kicking in. Your center vision is still programmed to delete what peripheral vision detects, so you don't look straight. You keep your gaze soft, acknowledge the movement in your peripheral awareness, but do not pursue it with intent. You maintain a gentle glance and allow your brain to gradually comprehend that what you see in the periphery will not go away. It is steady and present, and after 7 to 10 minutes of practice, your brain begins to allow more of what peripheral vision detects. When you attain conscious awareness, the filter starts to relax, and you'll notice your first one. It will not appear as you expect. Archons are not shown as solid, three-dimensional beings. They appear as semi-transparent distortions in the air, similar to heat waves or shimmers with a hazy shape but no distinct edges. Some chosen ones describe them as deep shadows. In contrast, others describe them as dark vapor that moves with purpose, or as vaguely humanoid beings made of static. What you see will be determined by the sort of archon you are perceiving and the density of its manifestation at that instant. The first time you see one clearly, you'll wonder if you're seeing it or imagining it. Doubt is common, but here's how you'll know it's genuine. It will react to your attention as soon as you notice it clearly, moving either toward you to increase its influence or away from you because it understands it has been seen, that movement, that response to your awareness. That is what proves you are not imagining it. Imagination does not respond to being watched. Actual beings do. Once your eyes get adept at detecting archons, you'll notice them in unexpected locations. You'll immediately realize how common they are. They are not rare. They are everywhere. Most people have at least one archon tied to their field at any given time. In particular situations, such as churches, government institutions, and hospitals, emotional density is high. You'll notice dozens of them grouped. The first place most people notice them is at home. You'll be sitting in your living room and see activity in the corner. You'll soften your sight and notice a black shape floating near the ceiling or wedged into a corner, simply staring. Most of the time, it does not actively assault. It is observing and waiting for an emotional outburst. Fear, rage, passion, and despair are all things it can feed on. And the moment you develop that emotion, it gets closer. You will notice it approaching. You'll see it position itself toward your head or chest, and you'll feel the energy drain in real time. But here's why visibility is so powerful. When you see it and recognize what it is doing, the feeding stops working since you are no longer unconsciously generating the emotion. You're aware of it, you're observing it. Conscious emotion does not fuel archons in the same way that unconscious emotion does. They need you to be unaware. They need you to believe the emotion is entirely yours. The emotional state changes the moment you realize that an entity is attempting to extract it. It becomes information rather than food. You will also notice them attached to other persons. This is more difficult to watch since you'll notice how many people you interact with daily are actively controlled and have no idea you're talking to someone with an archon perched on their shoulder or wrapped around their skull. When they say anything nasty, irrational, or self-destructive, you will notice the archon pulse. You'll see it tighten its grasp, and you'll immediately realize the concept didn't begin with them. It was implanted. Some selected individuals claim to have consistently seen Archons in specific regions. Certain corners of rooms, entrances, thresholds, and mirrors. These are anchor points, sites where the barrier between dimensions is thin enough for Archons to remain steady. And once you've identified the anchor spots in your home, you can clear them, not by ritual, but through consciousness. You gaze directly at the space, acknowledge what is there, and then speak, "I see you, but you have no authority here." Most of the time, it doesn't, because you banished it with spiritual authority and removed its cover. And Archons do not always appear in the same places. The more disturbing sightings occur when you see them in public. You'll be in a crowded area, such as a mall, subway, or stadium, and Archons will move through the throng like sharks. They aren't really attached to anyone. They're scanning for the human and broadcasting the frequency they feed on. When they locate their victim, they latch on. You will see it happen. You'll notice the Archon hooked to someone's field, and within seconds, their disposition will shift. They will appear more fatigued, irritated, and disconnected. That signals the start of the harvest. And this is what the selected ones suffer most from. You cannot warn them. If you approach a stranger and claim to have an entity tied to you, people will believe you are nuts. So you observe, give witness, and do the only thing you can. You preserve your own visibility and practice so that the Archons cannot do to you what they are doing to everyone else who is unable to see. Jesus taught chosen ones how to see Archons with physical eyes rather than spiritual vision. They fear visibility more than any prayer or spiritual activity. When you can see them, you cannot be gaslight. You can't be sure you're imagining the attack. You are consciously observing it, which disrupts the feeding mechanism. The technique is soft gaze, low illumination, relaxed focus, and peripheral awareness. You practice for 10 minutes every day for 7 days, and you'll see your first one. And once you see it, after you've proven to yourself that these creatures are real, present, and acting all around you, everything changes. You are no longer defending blindly. You're navigating a visible field, and that visibility gives you strength that they can't take away. If you're practicing Archon visibility tonight, do 3 things straight away. First, comment, "I see them now," and commit to the 7-day practice. Second, subscribe to Etheric Code Laboratory since advanced approaches and protective measures are on the way. If you are moved by the divine love within you, now is a wonderful time to share it. You can support the channel by clicking the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. Third, I like this video. As a result, others who are selected learn that they can see what was previously hidden. Do all 3 now, and then tonight locate a quiet place, dim the lights, soften your eyes for 10 minutes, and see what you find. You aren't summoning anything. You're simply eliminating the filter that has been concealing what has always been there. And once you see them, if you gaze directly at an Archon and observe how it reacts to being seen, you'll never doubt that this is real again. They are here and you can see them.